Most people today, when you bring up the 7 wonders of the world, instantly start blurting out things like the Colosseum, Stonehenge, or even the Eiffel Tower. And honestly, if you fall into that group, well, you've been lied to your whole life. Stonehenge and the Eiffel Tower were never world wonders. Not officially, not unofficially, not even close. And the Colosseum? Sure, it's part of the modern list, but can we really pretend that's a sacred decree? That list was born from an internet vote in 2001. Yeah, an online poll. A bunch of idealistic Swiss folks thought the people, not governments, should decide what humanity calls a wonder. Sweet idea. But they forgot about 2 very real forces, money and nationalism. Because the moment countries realised tourists flocked to anything labelled a wonder, they pulled every lever they could to get their monuments on that list. It's basically rigging a popularity contest for profit. And if that's the case, tell me, how did the Colosseum make the cut, but the Great Pyramid of Giza, the only surviving ancient wonder on Earth, didn't? Exactly. So forget the modern list. Let me show you the real wonders, the old ones, the original legends. And don't worry, I brought a time machine. Ready? Let's go. Welcome to ancient Egypt, not the dusty sun-baked desert you know today, but a kingdom alive with colour. The Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't look sand brown here. It gleams white, polished with limestone, so bright it could blind you at noon. This thing wasn't just a flex of wealth or a royal ego project, it was a fortress for a god-king's soul. The Egyptians believed their pharaohs were divine on earth, destined to ascend to the gods after death. So they carved and hauled 2.3 million stone blocks, a total mass of nearly 6 million tonne, across the desert to build a tomb no mortal thief could breach. And no, contrary to every bad Hollywood movie ever made, this wasn't built by endless lines of whipped slaves. It was thousands of skilled labourers, engineers, stonecutters, and seasonal workers who gave 20 years of their lives to shape this impossible monument. Pharaoh Khufu died before it finished, but his people honoured their promise and sealed him inside anyway, tucked into a granite sarcophagus so plain it almost feels like the world's most anticlimactic punchline. 3 massive slabs were slid down a hidden shaft to lock the chamber forever, or at least until time, earthquakes, robbers and empires eventually tore the place apart. His mummy? Gone long before modern archaeologists arrived. Looted, vanished. The Queen's chamber? Empty, mysterious. The air shafts. Some reach the outside, others go nowhere. The deeper tunnels? Dead ends carved for reasons nobody alive can explain. Some people claim the pyramid was a power plant once upon a time, blasting wireless electricity across Egypt. And I'd love to joke about aliens. But no, some mysteries are just mysteries. 4,500 years later, all that polished white casing is long gone, shaken loose by quakes, stripped by empires, and eroded by time, leaving behind the giant, weathered stack of stone we see today. And that's only the first wonder. The next stop? Babylon. Or maybe not. The legendary Hanging Gardens, supposedly a lush, terraced mountain of waterfalls and exotic plants in what's now Iraq, might not have even existed. No ruins, no foundations. Just poetic descriptions from ancient Greek writers talking about a king who built paradise for his homesick wife. Maybe it was real. Maybe it was myth. We simply don't know. But on to something real. The Temple of Artemis, not the tiny prototype first built, nor the second one wiped out by a narcissistic arsonist, hungry for eternal fame, but the final massive gleaming masterpiece, crowned with sculptures that drew worshippers from across the world. It stood for centuries, until earthquakes, invaders, and time erased it. Then there's the Statue of Zeus, towering, golden, seated like a god ready to burst from the temple roof. It wasn't the biggest wonder, but it captured the soul of Greek devotion, a civilization pouring its identity into a single image. Fire and earthquakes eventually claimed it too. Next, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, a monumental tomb built by a grieving queen for her husband brother, decorated by the greatest sculptors of the ancient world. It survived pirates, fires, and even Alexander the Great, but not earthquakes, and later crusaders tore apart what remained to fortify their walls, only to be crushed anyway by the Ottomans. Then comes my personal favourite, the Colossus of Rhodes, a bronze titan born from war. The people of Rhodes survived a brutal siege, outlasted a monstrous siege tower the size of a modern apartment block, and when the enemy fled, leaving their war machines behind, the Rhodians melted the metal down and forged a god standing 30 metres high. It lasted only 56 years before an earthquake snapped it at the knees, but its fallen pieces still drew visitors for centuries. And finally, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, a shining tower guiding ships through deadly waters, built with mirrors and polished bronze that amplified a single flame into the brightest beam the world had ever seen. A marvel of engineering, a symbol of power, a guardian of the seas. It stood for over a millennium before earthquakes returned to do what they do best. And just like that, all but one ancient wonder vanished from the earth. So are the ancient wonders better than the modern ones? Honestly, not necessarily. The Great Wall, Machu Picchu, Chichen Itza, they absolutely deserve the praise they get. But the fact that the Great Pyramid didn't make the new list, that's a crime against history. Maybe it's time we vote again. But before I let you go, one last thing. Remember the 4 sculptors who built the mausoleum? Scopas, Bryaxis, Timotheus, and Leochares. And the pharaoh sealed inside the Great Pyramid? Khufu. No? You forgot already? It's fine. You won't remember any of this after what happens next anyway, because if you think time travel is real, well, the game was rigged from the start.